And I think that if we took a more kind of valued approach in why would somebody do it, the psychology. It's a lot of pressure to compete. Once you get to that level and you're working with sponsorships and you're working with different organizations that are helping give you money so that you can train full time, you got to win.
Follow me to the edge of the world.
All right, welcome back. We are episode 3 right now for the New Server podcast. We're really glad that you are here. John Prescott, Nathan Head, New Server CrossFit coming at you from Raleigh, North Carolina. Really glad that you chose to be with us today. Last week we were talking about nutrition, specifically breakfast, and how important it is.
Absolutely.
As a foundational piece of your fitness. You can't really work out if you don't have good nutrition. I mean, you can, but you're not really going to be fueling things the way that you should be. So this week, we wanted to carry on that theme of taking care of your body. Specifically, wanted to hit some rest and some recovery and how important it is. John, drop the knowledge on us, man.
I think the first thing that we got to really look at is, and it really ties into last week, is metabolism. It really ties into last week. And if you look at what breakfast does for your metabolism, is it starts it. It's like a jump starter for your body for the rest of the day. Well, if you take breakfast and the metabolism that it gives you and the continuous eating and healthy nutrition and all that stuff, and you kind of put that into play, you've done one part. You got your first part into play. But I having done this for a while now, I think that the psychology behind what we do, it's a hard barrier to break down. I take 2 to 3 rest days every single week. I've done it notoriously for probably the past 5 years. I take Thursday off. Sometimes I do yoga. Saturday and Sunday I take off as well. Sunday is almost a guarantee. Sometimes on Saturdays, if I come in and coach, or if there's a partner workout or one of the other coaches are here, I'll hop in on the workout and I'll do it with them.
So let me stop you right there for just a second, because the gym bro is looking at you right now going, dude, rest day.
Yeah.
What the heck is a rest day? Like, why would I rest? I don't want to rest. I want big arms.
And there's that psychology, right? It's the perception of, wow, I need to get it. And the only way I'm ever going to get a 225-pound squat clean is if I just go to the gym every single day for the next 7 years. And that's so far from the circumstance, I think when you consider what an elite athlete has to do to train at that level and what they're willing to put their body through, it's the law of diminishing returns, right? On a long enough timeline, things will start to break down when you're training at that level. And it doesn't matter how much recovery you do, and I'm sure any of these athletes would agree with me. There's a breaking point, And their breaking point's a lot higher because their conditioning point is a lot higher. You're coming in and comparing your Helen time to Chris Spieler. Well, that's ridiculous. He's a games level athlete. He's been to the games. He's been to regionals. He's been competing at a level that is far surpassed even the amount of time you're willing to put into in a month what he does in a week. So you have to ask yourself again, long play, why am I here? What is the purpose for me being here? Why did I walk in the door in the first place? Because if your answer wasn't to go to the CrossFit Games, which 99.99% of the people who walk in the door never say that, your answer is usually, I want to become healthier, I want to lose weight, I want to lead a better lifestyle, I want to be able to pick up my grandkids. So now we have to really dial into the true nature of the goals and say, all right, well, in order for me to actually perform better, considering the fact that I slept no more than 5 hours a night this entire week, my kid's been up screaming, I have to go to work in the morning, I have a presentation due on Monday that I'm going to be up all night on Sunday working for, and you kind of factor that into your training. Like, that's a real application of why training's not going to go the way that you want. Nobody ever really thinks to acknowledge that. It's not just cortisol levels that are going to, affect you. It's, did you eat right? Did you sleep okay? Are you super stressed? Did you get to pay your bills this month? Is your car broken down? These are things that are going to grossly affect your production, your output, your recovery. So taking time to rest, and real rest. Like, I love when someone comes in and they're like, oh, it's a rest day. I just went for a 5-mile run. And you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? You ran for 5 miles. You ran for 45 minutes at a moderate. And you're like, it's a rest day. It's fine. It's a rest day. And then tomorrow's heavy deadlift day, and you're like, great. So you're really just not giving your body any sort of restorative property to it. Get a massage. Go for a walk. Go for a nice swim. Not a 1,000-meter breaststroke, swim. just get in the pool,
Right.
float around, like relax.
Right. Actually recover.
Take time to let your muscles heal.
Right.
And your production will go way up.
Which is totally counterintuitive. The
So
average
counterintuitive.
person, I know for me, it was the same way when I first got into stuff. Specifically CrossFit, it was like the only way that I'm going to get better at this is if I'm always doing it.
Every single day.
There's one of the guys that I work out with at 4 o'clock at the gym here. He's the same thing. He's like, I just can't. I'm like, you are literally training yourself to the point that you can't think about anything other than training. So you don't have the ability to kind of just relax for a little bit, subconsciously work through some of those things.
And also, is it fun?
It's not fun at all.
Right.
Right.
And then we go right back to the initial goal. Why were you here in the first place? And I think as coaches, one of our biggest responsibilities is to keep people in check with that. I tell people all the time, I'm staunch. I mean, you come in here, and I know because I'm here every day.
Right.
I see who logs in. I know what athletes are walking through the door. And I hear the little sewing circle of people who are talking about the extra run they did here, or meeting over to do the swim here, or taking a 150-mile bike ride here, then coming in and doing double Fran or something on a rest day. Like, I know what's going on. And I think as coaches, it's our responsibility to really, and again, not from a judgment perspective, but more from a perspective of making people rationally understand that the rest will give you better everything. The recovery time that you take will give you a better everything overall. But I think it's really tough, and this is where it goes into the psychology of it. This is your safe space. I come in here, I sweat for an hour, I'm able to get, yeah, I don't have to deal with work and relationships and kids and cars and bills, and I come in here and it's like that light switch gets turned off, and the light switch that gets turned on is personal improvement time, personal development time. And I think that if we took the same mentality outside the gym that we take in the gym, and you find that hour or two for personal development not here, you're going to have a much greater side effect to your training. And I do it in all sorts of different ways. I mean, I love to travel. It's one of my favorite things, is just being able to travel and see different things and experience different things. But I'm always up to do something. Like, somebody will call me like, hey, do you want to go do this completely weird and random thing? And I'm like, yes.
The 24-hour.
Yeah. I mean, I never plan my life more than 24 hours in advance. So, you know, you never know what you're going to get. But yeah, it's a big thing is taking that extra hour and a half or hour out of your other days, out of your rest days, out of your program rest days, and saying, okay, it's a little bit of me time. You know, I'm gonna make beer. I like making beer. It's something I enjoy doing. Or I like fishing. You know, one of our guys, Brian, he will literally say, I'll see you in a week. I'm going fishing. I'll see you later. And it gives him that sort of center and that sort of clarity where he's able to kind of reconnect with himself. That physical part of being in the gym is just as much psychologically effective, I think.
So for the person that is new to the rest day, new to taking care of themselves, the recovery side of things, on a practical level, from a range of motion, from a movement perspective, like, what would you recommend? What are some things?
Oh, it's such a lengthy thing. I honestly, at this point, I think you need to find what works for you. That's, you know, some people love doing mobility WOD, and they'll go in there and they'll do, or ROM WOD, excuse me, they'll do ROM WOD. Mobility WOD, K-Star, great programming, another guy, great resource. You know, I have both copies of Becoming a Supple Leopard, and learning about how you can, if you are coming into me on a weekly basis and you're pointing at something and you're like, it's just right here, or like, oh, it's just right here, or then you're not doing enough self-care. Like, you can definitely lean on your coaches for advice, and it's our responsibility to give you some cooling stretches and some different ideas and alternatives for mobility, but it's not our responsibility to take care of you. That's your responsibility. So when you're complaining about having these aches and pains, and my question is, when was your last rest day?
Right.
And the answer is usually, and if you don't have an answer, it's been too long. Because I can tell you within 5 seconds, my last rest day was Sunday, and we are at Thursday, and today is my rest day. I will rest today. We're going to battle tomorrow night. We have a few gyms coming over.
If you're in Raleigh, come on out. Little plug.
Yeah.
CrossFit.
Box battle. Yeah, bringing it down. We got Suesponte. We got Morrisville. Obviously, we have us, and we had a few other invitations. I'm not really sure how that's going to pan out.
People coming out. But if you're getting this and it's Raleigh, come on out.
Come on out.
We'll see. But back to recovery.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more. For you, when you do a yoga or you take a rest day specifically as you're working through some stuff, just for somebody that's like, I just want something practical. Tell me something I can do right now that would help me do something like that. What would you recommend? Not only as a CrossFit coach, but also as a licensed massage therapist.
Yeah.
So walk us through some of that.
First of all, if it hurts, stop doing it. You know, range of motion is not about pain. It's not, oh, I'm smashing these muscles here with a fucking concrete ball, and you're just standing there and you're screaming. Well, how is that helping you?
As Dad used to say, if it hurts, stop doing it.
Stop doing it.
Yeah.
It's illogical. I love some of these mobility, things where they're beating themselves up, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
That's not recovery.
Please stop doing that.
Yep.
So if it hurts, stop doing it. I think I also am not really like, okay, it's going to be 20-minute hold your squat stretch time. But I think you need to find a balance of different various intelligent stretching and various mobility tools that you can use towards your advantage. I mean, there's softballs, there's double lacrosse balls, there's larger, balls that you can use, and then there's foam rollers. I think foam rolling is a little, I won't say it's like played out. I think it's just overutilized as a crutch to warming up. Like, I just got to go foam roll for 5 minutes. That's not really how stretching actually works. And without being too nerdy about it, like, if you're not being active in your movement, you're probably not getting a great stretch in. You're just smashing out muscles. And it's really difficult, and this is kind of getting a little bit into the nerdy side of things, but it's pretty difficult to properly flush out a muscle if you're engaging it. Right? So like, I'm laying on my back and I'm foam rolling out my T-spine, but in order for me to foam roll out my T-spine, I have to activate my T-spine, right? So it's like this, you're kind of battling yourself into mobility. So I think getting a massage is a great thing. Usually getting range of motion restored into a joint is reflective of some manipulation of some sort. I am a firm believer in chiropractic medicine. I'm a firm believer in physical therapy, massage, even cryotherapy is really good for sort of pushing all that blood through your body and kind of creating another regeneration of restorative blood. But I also think, yoga is a great thing. But is it good for you? Is what's good for me good for you? Probably not. But if you're doing nothing,
that's not good for anything.
Then that's not good for anything at all. And then you're going to come in and complain about how your hips hurt and you can't squat. Well, great. What have you done outside of here, right? While you're sitting, and this is the best. When you're sitting at home on your couch Netflixing, because you're gonna get off the couch and just just stretch. Just literally sit on a yoga mat and stretch 15, 20 minutes.
You still binge watch Stranger Things?
Crush it.
Just, you can stretch open them up.
But take a little bit of self-care time, and then I look at that and it leads me right into when somebody has an excuse for why they can't move in a certain way. I love I have no front rack mobility, I can't do it. Are you shitting me? Like, you're looking me in the face and you're acknowledging that you have a problem, but you're just doing nothing to address it. Like, oh yeah, like, I know that I probably could do that. Yes. I love that. It's like, I ran a 6-minute mile when in high school. When was the last time you even ran? Don't tell me what you can do, show me, fucking prove it. Like, put some time into it. And you will, this was great. We had one of the best conversations I've had in the past 2 weeks. It actually caught me so far off guard, I just started laughing. Curtis, lifelong member. He's been with me for going on 6 years, and he's just one of the coolest guys that I know. And he's been doing the aerobic capacity workouts by Henshaw. And if you're not following that programming, then you are certainly not filling out your application to what you're capable of doing. You are missing out. So he started doing it, and he's been he's been CrossFitting for quite a while. And I look over, it's about a week ago. I look over and he goes, "Hey coach, check this out." And he hinges down at his hips and he reaches down and he touches his toes. And he's on his toes, and he's got his fingers underneath of his toe box. This is a guy that 3 months ago couldn't even get his hands past his knees. And he said that because he'd been doing the working out, it had added a lot of more mobility and stretching into his day-to-day routine, and he could do something that he couldn't do for a decade in his life. And that sort of impact affects everything else that he's doing now. He's actually activating his hamstrings in a better way. He wasn't really using them to their full potential, right? Because we know that a shortened muscle is not as functional as an elongated muscle that's in its normal physiological place. So it's cool to see that happen. And I think if you can kind of relate that into the front rack position, which is usually shoulder mobility in guys, right? We always kind of tend to see shoulder mobility in guys, and I see a lot of more hip mobility in women. And if you take a little bit more time and work on those things, like all of a sudden squat cleaning isn't something you can't do. All of a sudden it's something you feel comfortable with.
Well, and to piggyback to your point, I was contacted by one of our athletes who has an injury and had asked me for some help trying to find some modified movements. And messaged me the other day and was like, hey, this stuff is awesome. My traps are on fire. I've been working on it, not in the gym. I'm sure she's been doing it in the gym too, but like on her own, working on stuff, seeing dramatic results. So it, like you said, it's one of those things where it's not just come to the gym and work. It's also what am I doing away from the gym to make this a lifestyle?
Yeah, right.
So that I can recover, so that I can get better.
Lifestyle.
Absolutely.
Lifestyle. And I you know, I see a lot of gyms, they'll do and if you follow main site programming, there's always a programmed rest day in. I've always kind of believed, and this is just by nature of the way our structured business is, if you're not offering programming every day, it's almost a missed opportunity for athletes who can't come in on a regular basis. So what we do is we offer yoga at 5:30 on Thursdays as sort of our restorative opportunity to get some rest and recovery in. That's why we do it. Is there programming still? Yes, I see a lot of gyms take the Thursday rest day model, and that's great. Totally programming a rest day. I think that's important. I think culturally you're kind of sending a message to the rest of your folks. I personally don't want to limit the amount of exposure my athletes have the opportunity to have when they come into the gym. That's why we don't really program the craziest workouts on Thursday. That's not really the intent.
Although to be fair, Randy today.
We are doing Randy today.
power
It's just
snatches
75 snatches.
with bar over burpees every minute.
It's one round of bar over burpees every minute of 4 reps.
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
Not that bad.
Sub 6.
Sub 6, and there's a 15-minute cap just in case.
Yeah, but it's only 15 minutes,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
You're not working that hard.
No, so yeah, I think that if you kind of reflect into, what the opportunities are for kind of getting a little bit more into your range of motion, getting a little bit more into your mobility, getting a little bit more into how important it is for you to actually be able to use the muscles, use the joints, articulate around the way that they're supposed to be moving, then everything else that you're trying to do will become easier. Like it will. It's a direct connective correlation to capacity into how well you move. And that anchors on, are you rested and recovered?
Right.
Are you doing your proper range of motion movement? Are you taking care of your body? What are you doing outside of the gym for yourself? And that way when the psychological side of you comes in, you're far more prepared.
Which is a perfect segue as we wrap up today. Talking about rest, talking about recovery, talking about psychology.
Yeah.
You really can't talk about those things and not touch on performance-enhancing drugs and how they affect the sport a little bit. So, just as we're kind of wrapping up, just some thoughts for people as they're finishing.
Yeah,
Tell us a little bit.
I think first of all, I kind of damn people a little bit for just shouting out at the hip. But social media is just a sewage of trolling and misrepresented ideas and people who have nothing better to do than punch away with their thumbs on their phone.
Right.
First of all, we're all human beings.
That's right.
Right? We're all human beings. And I don't think you need to deconstruct anybody else's life based on their decisions any more than I think will already happen, So I'm certainly not here to judge anyone. But what I think we should really address is that it is an omnipresent thing in our culture. I don't think it's something that we would be too surprised about overall in any sport, all of them. Everybody was like, Sammy Sosa's doing steroids. And you're like, really? Really? Is that really a surprise to you? The guy was 145 pounds when he started Major League Baseball. He was like 230, cranking out a home run every other at-bat.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That being said, I think that as a culture in our organization, it's not certainly something that we look up to having, and it's not something that we really support. But at the end of the day, I also, I'm very familiar with the bodybuilding world. I'm very familiar with how that whole operation works and how a lot of those men and women are jumping into it. The strongman world, I just competed at an event that there was obvious, performance enhancing drugs being used by some of the athletes. And do I think it's fair? I think that if you go into it knowing the rules for what you're competing at, then anything's fair. mean, I could do it if I wanted to. That's not against the rules. That doesn't necessarily mean it's right for me. And I think that if we took a more kind of valued approach in why would somebody do it, you know, the psychology. It's a lot of pressure to compete. You know, once you get to that level and you're working with sponsorships and you're working with different organizations that are helping give you money so that you can train full time, you know, you got to win.
Well, and to bring it full circle, like the faster I can recover,
Right.
the faster I can then get back out there.
Right to that mindset. When you're doing 3 or 4 workouts a day, your recovery is way, way, way less. I just think that, you know, it's not really a huge surprise to me or to the rest of the culture that this is something that's happening. I personally am glad that the testing is becoming a little bit more prevalent. I think that it creates a little bit more of a standardization to sort of how these things are being psychologically and monetarily perceived in our industry. And it's going to take time to perfect. You know, the CrossFit games aren't old. CrossFit's not been around that long. It's not really something that we've been doing for a long time. So I think that what we really have to do is let it run its course, let it take its time, let it do what it's supposed to do, and let the people who are in charge do what they're, you know, within their rights to being able to do, but also understand that these athletes are human beings and they're people and they have lives and they have, you know, careers that they're trying to think about. So I don't know that there's necessarily a right or a wrong position to take on it, as much as I think that it is something that we should be aware of. I think it is something that as an athlete you should know, you know, to make the right choice on. I mean, it's definitely not something that I'll be entertaining trying or doing. But we really should be aware that this is something that can present itself. You know, I'm not going to say I haven't been in gyms where I've seen it before. That doesn't necessarily mean it's something that I talk about or something that it's not my business. I just don't need to be involved in it. And, you know, those are your goals. Is it any different than me telling you not to take any supplement? Really? Anything? It really isn't. It's not really my place. But you won't be on my competitive team. Right. So, you know. But I do applaud CrossFit for taking a hard line on it, and I think that you know, the message that's being sent is this is not going to be something that we tolerate, and I really stand behind that. I think you know, a lot of the other professional sports players get slaps on the wrist, and it's like, here's your fine and here's your 3-game suspension.
Right.
What?
Right.
Well, what? You know, there's no real risk in that. Yeah, there's no real risk in that. Where it's, hey, sorry, but you're banned from the sport. Like, you can't play anymore. We're sorry that that's what we have to do for you. But, and you know, the appeals process is something that should be taken very seriously. But, you know, I do think there's value in it. And I look forward to seeing how 2018 plays out. I think watching the Redeemed and Dominant was a pretty eye-opening experience. But I look forward to seeing it play out this year. I look forward to a fantastic competition. The athletes this year are the best. So it's been so fun to watch. And yeah, you know, we'll see what happens. I think maybe we'll have another conversation with this maybe in about 2 months.
We absolutely, yeah, we'll definitely circle back around to this. So again, thank you all for joining us today. John Prescott, Nathan Head, new show for CrossFit in Raleigh. We will be back next week with more fun food for thought. So we'll see you then.
Peace out.
To the